Rebels, sit back, relax, close your eyes if you want to, and listen to the stories of 4 rebels. They may not have lived in the same time or place, but they have something in common. While you listen, see if you can find the connections between these stories as we take you around the world and back again, traveling through time, space, and possibilities. First up, a young mountain climber who conquered her fears and mountains. Malavath, Poorna. Once upon a time, a girl called Poorna went on a rock climbing expedition with her classmates. When they arrived at Bonghair Rock in southern India, she looked up at the huge cliff that she was supposed to climb. Her legs shook and there were tears in her eyes. "I'll never make it," she thought. But Poorna's teacher, a local police officer, encouraged her. "You can do it," he said. So she tried. When she reached the top, she shouted for joy. "I'm not afraid of anything now," she said. "I can conquer Mount Everest." And she wasn't just saying it. Poorna actually wanted to climb the highest mountain in the world. Before setting off for that next adventure, she had to train hard. She built up her stamina playing kabaddi, a sport similar to a high-energy version of tag. She traveled to the high plateaus of northern India in the freezing winter, and she climbed to the top of Mount Ranok, one of the most challenging peaks in the Himalayas. When she was ready, she joined an expedition to scale Mount Everest. She wasn't afraid at all when she first saw the mighty mountain. "It's not that tall," she said to her coach. "We can do that in a day." Well, it took 52 days to get to the top. But when she reached the summit, Poorna, aged 13, became the youngest girl ever to make it. Poorna went on to climb to the top of Mount Kilimanjaro in Tanzania, but her highest aspiration is to become a police officer, just like the teacher who helped her conquer her fear. And now, a high-flying adventurer named Marta Empinotti. Once there was a girl who dreamed of flying. The first time Marta went skydiving, she was only a teenager. She fell in love with the feeling of weightlessness, of soaring above the world like a bird. Her family taught her to always be independent and never be tied down. Marta loved her parents and 3 sisters in Brazil, but there was so much of the world to see. She went traveling, and her first stop was the United States, where there was lots of skydiving and something else exciting too: base jumping. She decided to make the US her new home. Instead of leaping from a plane, base jumpers use their parachutes to leap from places high above the earth, like bridges, cliffs, or tall buildings. It can be very dangerous, but Marta always made sure to be professionally strapped into her parachute. Marta loved the feeling of jumping better than anything else in the world. Marta has made more than 1,600 jumps and is one of the sport's most respected athletes. She has traveled all over the world in search of new adventures and has jumped from skyscrapers in Malaysia, waterfalls in Venezuela, and many places in between. Base jumping has enabled her to see the world in a whole new way. When I'm high above the ground, maybe 600 or 800 feet up, the feeling is very spiritual, Marta said. On the horizon, the sun is rising, turning the clouds pink and yellow. It's so peaceful. It's like paradise. It's just me and nature. Then I jump and feel the thrill. When I land, I see the sunrise again. How many people watch the sunrise twice in one day? And now, the story of a real-life Spider-Woman. Dengping. Once upon a time, There was a girl named Lo who loved climbing. She lived in Guizhou, a spectacular place in southern China with towering rock outcrops, lush dense jungles, and terraced fields covering the hills. The men in Lo's village had a unique tradition. They climbed up and down the terrifyingly high cliffs with no climbing gear, no safety nets, nothing but their bare hands. They gathered medicinal herbs and collected swallow droppings to use as fertilizer. They were so agile and fast that people called them the Spider-Men. Lo's father was one of them. As a little girl, Lo used to watch him climb nimbly from one ledge to the next, hundreds of feet in the air. One day, I'll do that, she thought to herself. When she turned 15, Lo started practicing on small slopes. She was the only female rock climber in Guizhou, and at first, no one wanted to train her. But eventually, she convinced her father to teach her all he knew. Soon, she was climbing as high and as fast as any of the Spider-Men. She was strong, brave, and extremely good at finding cracks in the sheer rock face to grab hold of. Today, Lo is a professional climber. Tourists love to watch her death-defying feats. Her hands are rough and calloused from hanging on to the rocks, and she loves her work. When I get to the top, I wave the red flag, she says. It's a fantastic feeling, like I'm on top of the world. Everyone in her village is proud of Lo, their very own Spider-Woman. And our final rebel, a woman whose need for speed changed bicycle racing forever. Alfonsina Strada. Once there was a girl who could ride a bike so fast that you could barely see her. "Don't go so fast, Alfonsina," her parents would scream. Too late, she had already whizzed past. When she got married, her family hoped that she would finally give up this crazy idea of becoming a cyclist. Instead, on her wedding day, her husband gifted her a brand new racing bike. They moved to Milan, and Alfonsina started to train professionally. She was so fast and so strong that a few years later, she entered the Giro d'Italia, one of the toughest races in the world. No other woman had ever attempted it before. "She'll never make it," people said. But nobody could stop Alfonsina. The race was long and strenuous, with 21 day-long stages along some of the steepest mountain roads in Europe. Of the 90 cyclists who started out, only 30 made it across the finish line. Alfonsina was one of them. She was greeted as a hero. The next year, she was barred from competing. Giro d'Italia is a men's race, the officials declared. But that didn't stop her either. She raced all the same, and she set a speed record that stood for 26 years, even though she rode a 44-pound one-gear bike. She would be happy to know that things have changed a lot since then. Now, women's cycle racing is hugely popular. It's even an Olympic sport. Did you find the common thread between our 4 stories? What was it? Think on those connections. People can speak different languages and live in different centuries and still share a common goal. In this case, all of these women sought incredible adventure, from climbing mountains to jumping off them and more. These rebels pushed their bodies and their minds to the limit. Never forget, rebels. The Rebel Girls bond is strong, and we wish you dreams full of inspiration.
This podcast is a production of Rebel Girls. It's based on the book series Goodnight Stories for Rebel Girls. This story was produced by Robin Lai, with sound design and mixing by Robin Lai. It was written by Katie Sprenger. Fact-checking by Joe Rhatigan. Narration by Erica Durham. Original theme music was composed and performed by Elettra Bargiacchi. Thank you to the whole Rebel Girls team who make this podcast possible. Stay Rebel.